so central like to the fabric and the identity of Fez is the Hubus. So it can be generally defined as a charitable endowment rooted in a way or another in Islamic jurisprudence. So because well, whether it's related to Islam or not, there is some debate on that because there are some research that would show similar systems before Islam. So it has long served as a vehicle for both spiritual merit, community development, and social welfare. And uh, like it's how it contributed to some, for example, craftsmanship and its promotion and its preservation is not really explored that much, but that's what I'm going to talk about here. So historically, the Waqf, or can you see the slide? Which, yeah, yes, all right. So historically, the Waqf or Awqaf institution or Hubus is a religiously motivated endowment of property for public or charitable use. It has played a central role in the Islamic world for it's not only like limited to Morocco or to Fez. It's like it exists all over the world. There is research in it in Indonesia, Turkey, and other parts of the Islamic world. So in Morocco, the system became widely known as Hubus and was regulated by the Maliki jurisprudence, which allowed individuals to donate property for use by religious, educational, and civic institutions. The Waqf functioned as a de facto welfare state in many Islamic cities, offering not only religious services but also economic and social support. In Fes, and with its extensive religious institutions and markets, became one of the primary centers of Awqaf activity. And that would be from the Moravid to the Alawid periods, which are successive dynasties that institutionalized the Waqf system and to bolster their legitimacy and fund public infrastructure and promote Islamic education. The Marinids particularly endowed numerous mosques and madrasas across Fas. Fatwas from the 13th century document endowment related disputes and show the extensive entanglement between the Waqf and everyday urban life. And so I would move to, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot about this. But anyway, so the Waqf has a really like huge role in preserving many Zalij tale work and crafts in general. Like for example, the Zalij tile work. Zalij is the intricate geometric mosaic. I'm sure I hope you know what that is. So the Zalij that decorates many of his prominent buildings. The Waqf funded institutions like the Bouinania and the Atari madrasas, which employed artisans to produce these ornate patterns through these Waqf. Generations of craftsmen were trained in the mathematical and artistic techniques that define, in a way or another, the Moroccan art. Yes. Worse. And so leather as well, Fez is globally known for its already mentioned by Muhammad, so especially the Shuwara tannery. These facilities often are Waqf owned and provided affordable workspace and ensured environmental management. So Muhammad already talks about this, but apprenticeship were funded through Waqf income, passed on tanning methods that date back to centuries. Calligraphy and so this is the Shuara tannery. Well, it looks good. Ahmed already mentioned. So calligraphy and manuscripts arts. So the Waqf supported Quranic schools and deployed master calligraphies and book binders. The production of illuminated manuscripts, gold leafing, and meticulous script styles was intertwined with religious education and preserved Waqf protected institutions. Metalwork as well, and brassware artisans specializing in copper and brassware supported via Waqf fundaqs or ends or these multi-purpose buildings that provided workspace, materials, and lodging. These artisans produce ornate trays, lanterns, and decorative items, often sold in Waqf-operated souks, and also, so this is an example of the metalwork. And woven, also for the woven and textiles, Waqf estates supported female-led weaving cooperatives. These included the production of silk brocade, woolen cloth, and tailoring of traditional jalabas. Female instructors were paid from endowment revenues, enabling the transmission of textile knowledge through generations. And wood carving as well. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So wood carving and architectural ornamentation, cedar wood carving is a hallmark of as sacred and civic architecture. Minbars, mashrabiyya, screens, and doors were crafted by artisans trained in Waqf-sponsored school restoration projects for Waqf building further, so kept the craft in high demand. Well, what's so here we'll talk about bit. We'll get deeper in a way or another. These hubus in general, or uh, so they have, or the names themselves, they have some linguistic traces or of the hubus. And for example, we can see them in Bab al-Hubus, the Gate of Endowments, Souq Sibaghin, the Market of Dyers. These names reflect in a way or another to whom these places, like we can say, to whom they were owned. So the name itself like shows that these places were owned by the people who work in them. For example, the Souq Sibaghin is the market of dyers, so it was owned by the dyers themselves. We can also talk about the Fondaq of Najarin or Computers Inn. It's now a museum. But it reflects how these places were owned. For example, Fondaq al-Najjarin, it was owned mainly by those who work those carpenters who work in carpentry and so on. So many of these names retain their historical names or derivatives thereof. Mapping these names, okay, shows like a geography of piety and education, commerce, and craftsmanship that existed and still exists in a way or another. Soq al-Attarin as well, it's market of perfumers. So it shows that this place is owned by those people who were working in it. And for example, Fondaq al-Najjarin, it's located in the heart of Fes. Let me show you, I guess, like, yes, this how it looks now. Um, it's an artisan complex and it bears the name of Carpentry Guild. It's a waqf as a waqf property. Its revenues funded public infrastructure and religious education. And the term all reflects the dominant crafts in that area. Souq Sibaghin as well, the dyer's market. It's still active today, and it was linked to the endowments that supported water fountains and mosque maintenance, and it has an economic vitality of the dyeing industry, and it was leveraged for communal benefit. And there are also like Bab al-Hubus and so on. So the names of the many places that were funded and or were related to the Hubus have usually have the names of the people who are working in them. And this would bring us to like the some similarities between what's called what's the Hubus and what's called the commons. And So both these systems represent systems of non-privatized ownership designed to benefit the community rather than individuals. So while the commons is usually discussed in Western political theory, Hubus embodies a Sharia-based model of managing shared wealth and space across Sharia is the Islamic law, if we can say so, of managing shared wealth and space across generations. So, for some similarities that exist between these hubus and the commons, like for example, hubus are properties are inalienable. They cannot be sold, inherited, or seized. This mirrors the commons principle that shared resources should be protected from enclosure of or individual exploitation, and both are designed to preserve utility over time for collective use. Additionally, in Waqf revenue is generated from use, rents from shops or fields, for example, and reinvested into public benefits, education, craft guilds, and so on and so forth. Commons are similarly use-based. Value lies in collective access and stewardship, not market exchange. And when it comes to community governance, the governor would be the Waqf administrator or Wazir al-Awqaf. He oversees or she oversees usually he oversees the implementation of the Waqf akin to how commons institutions rely on local stewards, councils, or customary rules, and they both require accountability mechanisms and social contracts to remain functional. Another aspect that I would like to talk about is how the Waqfs enabled women craft production. So family waqfs constantly enabled women to inherit and manage income generation such as bakeries, weaving stalls, and soap workshops. In Fes, for example, such arrangements allowed women to participate in artisanal economy without violating the gender norms of the time. This dimension is especially important. It reveals how Waqf served as a form of economic inclusion for marginalized groups. Through these family Waqf, women not only sustained household economies, but also contributed to the perpetuation of craft traditions. And these waqfs were structured in a way to ensure that properties stayed within the family line while also providing services to the communities. Well, finally, I will be talking about, in a way, how modernization like challenges these hubus or the future directions of them. Despite their historical successes, the Waqf system in Morocco faces significant contemporary challenges. So colonial land reforms, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and modern urbanization, well, similar to how they affected. So they are related like arts and hubus and so on. And modern urbanization have weakened so the effectiveness of these traditional Waqf structures. Many Waqf buildings in Fez are now abandoned or underutilized, and the younger generation is increasingly and disinterested in traditional crafts. Well, there are some like modern strategies that have been proposed to revitalize the Waqf for 21st century needs. For example, the integration of Islamic finance instrument like Sukuk with Waqf assets, in a way creating or attempting to create a hybrid models that allow for capital intensive restoration projects. These initiatives supported by the Ministry of Religious Endowments and Islamic Affairs aim to catalog and refurbish Waqf-funded craft spaces to attract mainly tourists and investors, while in the same time preserving cultural heritage. I will I'll try not to take any more time. So the crafts of Fairs are not simply products or art of artisan skill, they are the living heritage of an urban culture deeply tied to Islamic roots. And so through Waqf, Fez has been able to maintain continuity in its artisanal traditions despite external pressures and societal change. However, it's facing and it has faced both challenges during the colonial era. I didn't tackle that in more depth and so on. And it's facing more challenges today. And yeah, that's probably would be it for my take on the Hubus.